Hello, 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 everybody. Hello. Welcome to the Be Salty podcast. I am so grateful that y'all have taken time out of your busy day to tune in with us tonight. We have, I think, a really, really good show tonight. Like, I'm super excited because it's my story as well, it's my journey as well. But I have one of the most sweetest women I know to be on tonight and to share a little bit about her story, as well as tips and strategies to help us towards healing when we step through traumatic relationships. And I say step through them, and I probably should have said. I like to use the notion that we go through storms and storms come to pass, right? They don't come to stay, they come to pass. There's no storm that has come in your city that has stayed from the time you've been born to right now, right? They've all passed at some point in time. So, whatever you have gone through, whatever you may be currently going through, just know it isn't here to stay. It has come to pass. So, without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Miss Reagan. Reagan, tell us a little bit about yourself, your podcast, and what you have going.
Okay, so thank you so much for having me on your show tonight. I greatly appreciate it. As you said, my name is Reagan Adams. I am from Knoxville, Tennessee. I have recently just moved to Houston about 9 months ago. So, very excited to be here. I quit my job after 16 years to move to Houston to grow my business. And what my business is called All Things Reagan, which is an umbrella of different events that I host. So, I typically host women's empowerment events and then also relationship events. I teach women how to build their perfect man from the inside out. So it's called the Build a Man Workshop. That's a long story. I'm just going to skim through that. I also have a podcast called Dating is Dead, Who Killed It? It is for relationships, men and women to come together and heal and talk about relationships. But one of the key components that I have are business or relationship coaches. I also have psychologists and counselors that are kind of like mediators. I believe a lot of the reasons we do a lot of the things we do are because of past traumas and hurts, and they're not healed. And so we tend to kind of try to figure it out through our relationships, and we end up hurting ourselves and others. So I really believe that we have to heal those things before we date or get married. So, and it's an ever going process. So it doesn't just stop before you date. So, and also with the women's empowerment, I really believe that you have to know who you are and walk in your purpose before you even attach to a mate. So we do all the groundwork and take accountability. So that's my thing basically for my businesses.
That's awesome. I'm actually myself looking forward to and excited about getting into one of your workshops that build a man from the inside out. Listen.
The men are like, you can't build a man, but it's really not what it sounds like,
Right.
to be honest. So, yeah. But yeah.
Well, let's dive into this conversation today. Healing from traumatic relationships. I know that you and I, when we met, we kind of bonded through going through traumatic relationships. And you told me a little bit about your story, if you don't mind sharing, just a little bit about the trauma that you went through, and then I'll have some follow up questions once you share that.
Okay. So I was married for 14 years. 4.5 of those years, my ex-husband went to prison. During the 4.5 years, I almost lost everything. I had a good job, have a degree, all of that good stuff. But he paid most of the bills and because he was in the street. And I was very irresponsible. So I had a bunch of credit card debt, almost lost our houses, our cars, like everything kind of came crashing down on me. But it was an opportunity to kind of start over and get serious about my business. Uh, During the 14 and a half years, though, to kind of step back, there was a lot of cheating. Not on my end, on his. And to be honest, we really should not have gotten married. And I can't really blame, the marriage on him because I have to, our marriage failing because of him. I have to take accountability for that on my end as well. we should have never got married. Neither one of us really knew what marriage was, what it entailed, and we didn't know. And so anyway, through the cheating, I stayed through him being in prison, and just learned a lot about myself, and being more responsible financially, learning more about my health. What I also realized is I believe I was really depressed during the marriage. We weren't having sex. I had gained a bunch of weight. I stopped caring what I looked like. I did not have any friends. I was really just kind of work, home, church. Just didn't know who I was. So when he left, that gave me the opportunity to just really start over. So even though I somewhat waited for him while he was in prison, I worked on myself every day. And when it was time for him to come home, I asked him, what's your plan when you come back? And he said he was going to go back in the street, basically. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not the life, I'm wanting to live. So I let him, once he came home, we ended up, I filed for a divorce. And so here we are. Also, I missed one part. After he came home, we divorced. 7 months later, I found him dead on the floor on a well visit when I checked on him. So yeah, he's no longer here.
Which is a lot. So as you were going through the traumas that you were going through, the individual traumas, the low self-esteem, the insecurities and things like that, aside from that, you were also dealing with a husband that was incarcerated. And then when he came home, you dealing with a divorce and then now a death. That's a lot for 5 people, let alone one person. Like, what are some things that you found yourself doing, trying to, as you were saying, you were working on yourself? Like, people say that it's almost like it could be a hashtag almost, like, but what specifically are some things that you actually did where you started to work on yourself and rediscover who you were?
I found out who I'm a believer. I'm saved. So I am a believer. Once you find out why you are here on earth, I mean, the rest is history. So I started getting in my word and, getting into my relationship with God and finding out who he said who he created me to be, who he says I am. And I started getting serious about my business. So with business, to me, it is about answering answering a need or a question that people have. And a lot of people were going through different things or still go through things, but really don't have anybody to talk to or relate to or that they can trust. And so what God started telling me to do is start doing videos and just talk about your everyday life, your struggles, things that are going on. And what I'm going to do in turn is I'm going to heal you as you talk about those things, but it's also going to help heal other people. And so what that does is make me relatable. And so that draws people to your business because they feel like, she's going through the same thing. She's not really hiding anything. So let me talk to her. She can help me. And that's basically what I did. It was almost like therapy, but I just let my life hang out in the open.
It actually is therapy. It's very therapeutic. In the word, it said people are won over by the power of your testimony. So, and they overcome by the power of your testimony. Like, the fact of the matter is, when you're speaking when you're being transparent and you're talking about things that are relatable to people, that is going to gravitate them to you because you know what? She's just like me. Sometimes we find ourselves putting people on a pedestal or, they may come across as unapproachable. And so you don't feel like, she mastered that, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? But when you can relate to somebody on their specific level and you can say, listen, I've been there too, and not just as a hashtag or a cliche, like, listen, my man did this, or we did that, or this happened to me, or I responded in this way, that allows people to be able to say, hey, well, me too. What did you do to get through that?
I think as Black people specifically, well, Black people and people in the church have a real bad habit of making things look good. Like, we can be going through a lot, but as long as our face is beat, we got the haircut, the clothes on, we have the appearance of looking good. And I don't like that. Like, we all go through things. And so I just want to, my life's purpose is to make sure that everybody's taking their mask off. Like what's really going on? Like
The
talk to me.
same. Let me tap into that real quick because in my in my last marriage, of course, as I shared with you, I was married to a pastor, and I had a movement, a brand called the Woman Behind the Diva, right? And it's crazy because I was talking about the woman who has to put on the mask and to be strong in front of the members, the ministry, friends, family, and things of that nature. And I spoke about that often, but I never touched on the fact that the man that I was marrying, who was a pastor and leading a ministry and people, was also putting his hands on me. You know, this man was abusive to me physically. This man was abusive to me spiritually. He very much so manipulated the word. This man was abusive to me emotionally, mentally. Like, he took me to a place where all the people around me felt that I was a very strong individual, and I probably was weak as water. Like, I literally was one step of the way away from crying most of the time that I was in front of people. And the church, traditional side of the church, will have you put on this image where you have to be strong. You know, you have to be strong for the members so they'll believe the word, you know, and which in fact, no, you need to be able to show your weakness so they can believe the word, so they can see the power of God and his hand on your life.
Right.
That's the part of the church where I feel like we've gotten wrong. I will never walk in that again, ever.
I don't want it because it's a religious spirit, and I don't like it. I just
Well,
don't
you know,
like
they
it.
say you know if the pastor is doing right by the look of the first lady, right?
Right.
That's what they say or whatever. But my look was always right, but everything else was always
Right.
wrong. So
Right.
I was living with a hellraiser, okay? So okay, so in that, I have a question here. So like I have a couple questions actually. So once you got out of the situation that you were in and you rediscover who Reagan is, who Reagan was, even in that, how were you able to not find yourself self-sabotaging moving forward?
I still do it.
Yeah.
I just have to be mindful of it,
Yeah.
even with dating now, because I always said, like, if I saw somebody like my husband, like now, I wouldn't even look his way.
Yeah.
So the type of guy, since I've changed, the type of guy that I like has changed. But I found
Yeah.
myself when I attract this type of guy, it's like, well, wait a minute, like I'm not used to this, and I might try to find something wrong. So I self-sabotage that sometimes, even with like business opportunities. Why am I at this table? I don't know, like, but I have over 14 years of experience. All of
Yeah.
my businesses are built on my marriage and my life as a
Yeah.
whole. So I have plenty of experience, but you think you see other things, other people higher than you, like, why am I here? You start to question yourself. So, I mean, I still go through that. I just have to be very mindful not to self-sabotage, but that comes with like my circle of friends.
Yeah.
They are very, very blunt. And so they know how to call things out, and I give them freedom to speak because I know they're, speaking from a place of love. And I also have to be honest with myself too. I don't like sugar. Sometimes I'm a little hard on myself, but I, just try to be honest with myself and make sure that I'm trying not to self-sabotage.
No, I like that. I like that allowing people to tell you the truth type thing, because some of us we have friends, but they might be yes friends, right? You need to have those friends who are able to keep you accountable, those friends that are able to tell you the truth, and that way, you can kind of reaffirm some things yourself based on, what your friends are telling you. Like, I think that's so necessary. Um, when you are in those spaces, let's just say, are you dating?
I am. I stopped when I got to Texas because I was like, I'm moving and one at a time we got a little something. Yeah, I'm open. I'm open. Taking my time, no rush, no rush.
So I'll tell you this. one thing that I constantly have to keep telling myself to keep from self-sabotage, I have to stay out of my head, right?
Yes, yes,
Um, because I stay in my head a lot. And it's not necessarily carrying things from the previous relationship because although I have done the work, we're human beings. Things will still arise and we have to cast those things down. But
right,
I constantly have to keep telling myself, okay, it's not that it's too good to be true. Like it's actually, I deserve things to be good in my life.
right, right,
It's okay to have good things in my life. I have to
right.
be able to tell myself that because if I see something that's too good to be true, I'm kind of already trying to shut it down before, I get to a place of disappointment.
Yeah. Listen, I recently, and I think I spoke about this in the Be Salty the other day, like with a young guy that I not young guy, but a guy I'm kind of dating. And it's new, but it's a lot because he's the exact opposite of anybody I've dated.
Okay.
And I'm like, what's wrong with him? And my friends know I pick people apart. But again, that's a part of the self-sabotage and being scared because a lot of times, a lot of us have not been loved properly anyway. So let's start there. But when you get two people who come into a dating situation and they neither one of them have been loved properly, they are scared of each other. And
Yeah.
so we're both just trying to, figure it out. And I'm like, okay, he's calling and he's texting throughout the day, and oh, he want to see me, and like it's just like he's very consistent. Where is this coming from? Because you hear women say all the time, ain't no man consistent. They don't do. But
Yeah.
what I've noticed is if they want to talk to you, guess what? They're gonna do it. They're
They
going to
will. They
they're
will.
going to make
I
the
don't
effort.
subscribe to the notion that there are no good men out here. I don't subscribe to the notion that, there are no men that will be monogamous with you. Like I don't subscribe to it. I think that there are good men out here. I think that men are mature. They are able to walk in their maturity just like we are as women. And when they're ready to do this or they're ready to do that, they will.
Well, one of the things, the reason I wrote the workshop, How to Build a Man or Build a Man workshop, is because back in COVID, God had shared with me, I'm a dreamer. So God had shared with me that what happened during COVID, you had the people who were in relationships or marriages have to come in the house together. So guess what? You got to be up under your mate the whole time. And a lot of people discover, I don't like you. They divorced or they separated, or you had people dying from COVID, which left people single. Well, what else ended up happening? You have people who started working on themselves. They went back to school, they got better jobs, like they got their money together, they got their lives together. And so, what God was telling me is a lot of people were with the wrong people, and He wants to bring the right people together. And a lot of the men are ready, but the women were not. And I know that stings sometimes. But God said we need the women to get ready because we have the woman, the woman is in her bag. She got this, she don't need a man. But here's the thing, like the women have a lot to learn when it comes, not everybody, but some of the women have a lot to learn when it comes to taking care of a man. And I don't mean financially, but I mean spiritually, mentally, physically, and getting outside of yourself to really tap into that man. And so God was just telling me, Reagan, you have got to help get the women ready. You got to. So
That's good stuff, Reagan. Part of that healing yourself after your relationships goes into that everything of what you're saying. Like when we spoke on your podcast, I don't know, it was months back. Submission is sexy, right?
so,
Submission is so sexy, but you can only get to a place of that sexy submission when you are a healed woman. When you
right.
are a woman that is traumatized or you're holding on to hurt or to pain, you kind of find it hard to allow a man to lead, to allow a man to or to fall up under submission, with the man. You find that happens often.
Absolutely. Women, I just saw something on my Facebook the other day, and the girl was like, she's been asking a lot of life questions. So she was saying, how does the man want me to be submissive to him and he can't pay all the bills? And I'm like, ma'am, Submission and money have nothing to do with it. I also saw another thing, and I posted the other day. The lady said when she met this guy, and I totally agree with what I'm about to say. When she met this guy, he was stable. He had his own place, his own car, and he worked. But she saw some things in him that needed to be pulled out. And so, because she was whole and she was healed, and she had business savvy and other savvy parts, she already knew what was in her. So once she attached to him, she's able to bring him to where, bring him up. So when you're already confident and secure, it doesn't matter. He can be stable and make less than you. But when you got two heads, two is better than one. One can chase 1,000, two can chase 10. So all you need to do is be able to know how to speak life into him, because he needs that, and let him know that he can do anything. And then also just, bring what you have to him and build him up. And guess what? You're not going to miss anything. A lot of women, not a lot, some women go in with their hands saying, what can I get, instead of what can I give?
Yeah.
You have to learn how to be an asset, not a liability.
Speak, girl. Speak. That's a word right there. That's a word. That's a word. And that's the part in the relationship when you knowing who you are. That goes back to knowing who you are. When you know who you are, when you know your purpose, and I'm going to say this as well. I'm a wife, and I say this boldly. Yeah. I say this boldly. I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table, and I'm not even talking finances. I know how I know how to create an atmosphere, right? Where when that man drives home, he's not trying to sit in the driveway. He can't wait to come in, right? Because I know, I just know, I know when to listen and when to speak, right? I know when to add to and when to pull back. It's a formula to this, right?
It is. Serving. I think when women learn, and I know, but what about the man? I'm not talking about the man now. When women learn how to serve, the Bible also talks about serving. You have to serve in leadership.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when you lead with serving and lead with giving, when you get the right man, let me be very clear when I say this, you won't miss. You will have everything you want and you need. And men don't want a lot. That's the crazy thing. They don't want a lot. They don't want a lot.
Listen.
They don't. It's very minimal. It's very minimal.
Shifted here.
Yeah. It's minimal.
So being on this rhythm that we're on right now, and we're talking about women, and we're talking about submission, right? Coming from a relationship where I served, right? I served, not in the beginning. I'm gonna be honest. Like the first couple of years of my marriage, thank God for that man's patience, because I was a hellraiser. I'm sure I was a lot of this, right? But it wasn't until I came into Christ and then came into who I was in Christ that I was able to allow God to lead, right? In that, I feel like the tables kind of shifted a little bit, right? And then that's when I became a server, right? In that serving, I got hurt. I got hurt tremendously. And I could have kind of rebounded to a place of where I came from. Let me go back to where I was protecting myself, and I was making sure that I was good, and it was more of me. But I didn't, because I knew that God's protection came with the serving, right? That relationship was necessary for me, right? I often wonder, why I was in the relationship and I was being abused, why am I in this relationship? But after I went through it and came out of it, God showed me that I was in that relationship for such a time as this, right? So that I can relate to women who are in the spaces that I've been in. Women who have been physically beaten, women that have been verbally abused, women who were in a space to where they were faking it to make it, talking like things were good and they were not. Being in a space to where I couldn't open up to my family, but yet I was enduring, right? It's in that that I was able to see my worth. It's in that I was able to receive my healing. It's in that I was able to see God's strength in my life, right? That there alone made me want to serve even more, because
Right,
there's no way in hell that I was able to do that on my own, right?
right, right,
It was no way. I mean, I can tell you, I was on 5 different medications. I had several panic attacks where I thought I had heart attacks. I had bloodshot eye. I have been whipped with a belt 47 times. All in the name of Jesus, because I was getting up and going to church right after, on the way to church, getting cussed out, and then getting out the car smiling and praying for people and trying to help lead people, and then get right back in the car where the argument picked up where it left off, like a message was never preached and a message was never heard, right? But even in that, I came out on the side of where, no, like, I'm still gonna remain in God's goodness, because there is glory after this, right?
right.
And the space that He has me in right now is I'm a healed, I'm a whole woman, right? This is where the whole be salty came from, because I feel be salty. We are the salt of the earth, for those who don't know, and it is our responsibility to season the world, right? We season the world through our words. We season the world through our works. And so in order for us to get to a space to where we can pour into someone else, we ourselves have to be full. You know, we ourselves have to have people continuing to show us who they are, being transparent. So I really thank you for even being transparent in this moment, just about your journey as well. Because if it's not for people like you, if it's not for people like myself, how then do people who are walking around with no one, no sister friend,
Right.
no brother or brotherhood, like, how do they then move forward by themselves?
They don't. They don't.
Do you feel like, and shifting gears a little bit, do you feel like that the relationships that you're in speak to who you are?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, and my friends say, I'm protective in the sense of who I have in my space. So I'm very watchful. I don't, it's even funny that I, cling to you quickly, like, because I don't do that. Like, I just don't. And I'm very intentional on who's in my space. They gotta have the right mindset. Like, I was in such a poverty stricken, and I mean, even like mentally, spiritually, and physically, I was in a
Uh-huh.
poverty stricken place, and I attracted poverty people. And so now I'm like, I need everybody to be where I'm at or above.
Yeah.
And that's in everything. Like, even with my homegirls, I have a group of women. Half of them are married. Half of them are single, or have been in, good relationships or have good sound advice. The other women have been in marriages 20 plus years. You know what I mean? So I have wisdom around me. Everybody's successful in their own right. Like, I'm very intentional, because for me, like, what do I look like hanging? I'm trying to do my business and do all this stuff, and I'm hanging around with people who aren't doing anything. That says I'm insecure. I want people right there with me or above. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
That's good stuff. Tapping into this question that's being asked is, what if you come from a family of single female parents and the woman taking on both roles? It's kind of hard to submit. I'll let you take that.
I actually have a friend that's like that, and she has this. I mean, even at this age, I'm 44. She's a little bit younger, but having that problem. I say get around some females who are married, some women who are married. Start looking like at meetup groups or on Facebook groups, marriage groups. Start talking to men. One of the things, and I know people say women can't have platonic male, friendships. You can start talking to men. I know a lot of the times women can't submit because they did not see a father figure. Where I grew up, I had my mother and father in the house. He was not a good husband, but he was a great father. But he took care of the household, and I saw my mom serve him. So I knew how to get a husband with no problem. But a lot of women, or some women, don't see that. All they do is see that. So I would just start strategically placing myself around people and men, like good men, good women who are married, so you can start seeing that dynamic. because at a certain age, we can't say, well, I didn't see it, so I didn't know. That's just like when it's time to go to heaven and God be like, well, what did you do? You can't say no. It's too much YouTube. Even if you can't physically find somebody, we got YouTube University. You can go to TikTok. I learn daily. I rarely watch TV. I'm always trying to learn something. Find a ghost mentor. People on like YouTube, start listening to those things. Start getting it in your spirit. If you're a spiritual person, ask God to send you what you need. That, yeah.
No, that's good stuff. So I was the woman that she's speaking of. I grew up around, my mother was never married. She was both roles in the household. She's a very dominant woman. She's a very giving woman. She's a very loving woman, but she still was also a very dominant woman because she kind of operated in both roles. So I did not know the role of a wife. I did not know the role of submission. I did not grow up in church. So it was me just personally figuring it out once I got into a marriage. That's why I say, bless his heart for staying with me the first couple of years, because I was a hell raiser. Yeah. But the notion of getting around other women who are already in that space, getting around women who don't mind serving, getting around women who don't mind submitting, and then also practice listening. Be slow to speak and quick to listen. Practice listening. I feel like that right there is major. I'm going to tell you something that I do, and one may find it as weak, but it works for me. When I'm in a situation and I feel like, we're having a conversation and maybe the conversation may start escalating, right? To me, that's a listening time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Let me just fall back real quick instead of giving my input right now, and let me just listen. Right? Some may see that as a weakness, which in fact is not, because this right here is a nugget right here, right? A submissive woman, right, will run the relationship. I will tell you this hands down. If you are a submissive woman, that man will pretty much do whatever you want him to do.
That's
I'm telling you, look, this is the gospel right here.
It's the truth. You ain't lying.
So I mean, try that out, because that's one of the biggest I would say tips or strategies that I find to be successful. It really is. So and then also being attentive, right? I find myself being very attentive. No man is the same, right? No woman is the same. Pay attention and watch and see what it is that works for your relationship. See this man's language and where you can reach him. See this woman's language and how you are able to reach them. Everybody is not going to be a person that wants to discuss in that moment. You have to be able to.
Listen, that will save the whole relationship. If you don't say nothing else, as long as we know how to shut our mouth, when to speak and when not to speak, listen, that's a nugget. That's the whole relationship. You don't have to know nothing else.
And
just be quiet and have sex. That's it.
Before you may be in a situation where you don't know. You may not know when to say what. Listen, ask. Is this the listening part of the relationship? I mean, the conversation. Or is this the talking part of the conversation? I mean, it may sound stupid. You may feel stupid in saying it, but it goes a long way, because you're letting this man know, listen, I'm not here to argue. I'm here to understand. Because the fact of the matter is, when we find ourselves in argument, or we find ourselves, in disagreement, when we find ourselves in disagreement, oftentimes we're trying to speak we're trying to listen to respond and not listen to gain clarity. So find yourself in a situation where you ask questions,
right.
Ask questions versus wanting to respond.
That comes with being healed, though. Because you have to be vulnerable. You have to really get outside of yourself and your relationship. You have to set yourself aside. And some women don't want to do that. They want to be right. I don't want to be right. I want to be happy. Let's figure out how to get it together. I'm telling you, that's the only thing you need to do. What Sister Kendria said, just do that. Be quiet, listen, and have sex and feed him. And speak into his life. That's all he wants. Let him go hang with his friends every now and again. That's it. That's all they want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hey, listen, I this
She gave
thing
me the whole thing. She gave it. That's the secret sauce. That's it.
it's this thing called healing, right? This thing called healing. I want people to know that it's a journey, right? We will find ourselves backtracking. We will find ourselves having mishaps and mistakes. But the fact of the matter is, it's something to be intentional about, and it's something to keep moving forward. Identify what the cause is, what that thing is that's causing you, you know, whatever type of adversity or problem that you're having, and be intentional about walking through it. One of the tips or strategies that I want to say that helped in my healing process is journaling. Journaling is very big. It allows you to see the progress of where you were to where you are today. What are some tips, Reagan, or some strategies that you found in the healing process that's successful for you?
I started dating myself outside of like doing videos and talking, being transparent. I started finding my style. I changed my hair. Clothes. I used to wear just regular lip gloss. Finding lipstick, like finding the colors that look good on me. Just getting to know me because I lost me. I
Mhm.
really lost me. And when I lost me, even in the marriage, like I couldn't be a good wife. I didn't know who I was. I lost my identity in him and, our daughter. So, really a lot, not a lot. Some women don't know how to go be by themselves. They always have to have somebody with them. And if you can't enjoy your own company, how is he going to enjoy? You don't even know who you are. He can't enjoy you. You can't enjoy you because you scared to be by yourself. So I started like intentionally like going to the movies by myself, going and sitting at the bar and talking to people. A lot of people would think that I'm very extroverted. I'm not. Like I'm an ambivert. So I'm in, but I'm out. So I can get lost in the back of the room. But I started putting myself out there more, trying to, and it's still a work in progress. But just start doing things you've never done before. That's it.
Another thing I want to add on to it too is have boundaries for yourself. Create those boundaries and stick to them. If you've told yourself like, hey, I'm going to disconnect from this person's social media, I'm going to disconnect from having pictures of this person in my phone, stick to it. Don't log off, or how do you say, what do? You unfriend them,
Yeah.
and then you trying to look on your friend's page to find them, or create another page to find them. Like,
Well, who was
really
doing all
hold
that?
yourself
Y'all better
accountable.
stop.
Huh?
Who was creating pages? They better stop. That's too much time. You ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing. You got time to be creating pages. How old are we? Y'all better stop.
Some people some people will find themselves so hurt, right, that they will find a way. You will find a way to see what this person is doing, but that's so unhealthy for your progress.
You ain't got enough to do. Listen, because I mean you and here's another thing. Start learning how to mind your own business. Like we have so much, there's nobody in the earth that should be in somebody else's anything, trying to peek it. If he's gone, let him be gone. There's 10 other men. It's like a bus every 15 minutes, especially here in Houston. And I better not hear one woman say no men here. Listen, it's a lot. I've met them, I know, and good quality men. So we can't get hung up on it. No, go find you something to do. Get busy. You got work to do, especially if you're single. Got plenty of work.
Especially if you're single. And one thing I want to add as well is, once you get back out there on the dating scene, don't lose your routine of your life when you meet someone else. Meaning, don't put all of the things that you like to do and things that you have been doing on the back burner, and you find yourself so involved in this person's life, because if something happens or it doesn't work out or whatever, then you find yourself back in a situation of being dependent,
Right.
of stalking someone's social media, or or finding yourself, sitting at home with nothing to do. No, allow yourself to stay in healthy relationship with yourself. Find a hobby. Go play volleyball. Go play softball. Do some karaoke.
Well, one of the things that most men are attracted to, especially if they're looking at your social media, is how you move anyway. So, for me, you need to have them stock your social media, not the other way around. I'm busy, and then you could not be busy. You know what I might be busy watching TV. I'll call you, back later. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even when I get married, I believe you should have healthy space. I need
Yeah.
to still have my life. You have yours. We have one together. And like, go take your boys' trip. I'm gonna take my girls' trip. When I get back, absence makes the heart grow fonder. You've got to have your own space. You
I
cannot be
wholeheartedly
consumed.
agree with that. I
Yeah,
wholeheartedly agree with that. I think the notion of when you leave and cleave and you get married and you're one. I'm still an individual person out here that has my likes and my dislikes and my
right,
hobbies and things like that. So when you get married, you have your life together, but you still have your own individual life.
right. Yeah, I'm not getting ready. Listen, I've lost myself in it before. I'm not doing it again. Like, I'm just
Same,
not.
same.
I'm
When
not.
I got divorced, I had no idea what I liked, what I was doing. I was in a dark apartment. Do you hear me? Watching movies, the same ones over and over. I think I watched Lean on Me. I probably watched Lean on Me, girl, probably like 35 times. I can quote that movie like I'm Morgan Freeman himself.
When I signed my divorce papers, I was like, I'm out. I was so happy, but I had those 4.5 years to do the work. So my divorce was a little bit different. Like, I was like, all right, I'm out.
Listen, listen, I won't find myself in that situation again. So
No,
Byron says learning how to close the relationship appropriately is key. But sometimes you don't. I mean, that's good if that opportunity is there to do so. But sometimes we don't have that opportunity to do that.
so let me just be honest here. I'm not good or have not been in the past good at closing relationships out and telling people, this is not for me, or and I just will ghost. I haven't done it recently. I haven't, because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Like, I didn't want to have that grown up conversation. Like, I like you, but
So you don't think that the ghosting is gonna hurt feelings?
it is. But I didn't know how to handle it. Like, I didn't. I'm doing better. I'm having the conversations now. And that was another reason, like, I stopped dating, because I needed, that's been like an issue for me sometimes, is having the converse. I don't like having hard conversations. I don't like, and a lot of people are like, well, that don't even make sense. You so stern on other stuff. But I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So it's just like, I don't want to tell you, maybe you'll say like, no, Reagan, but I'll change or I'll do it. And I'll be like, okay, knowing good and well, like, this ain't it.
Yeah. So me, I am that person that can have that tough conversation with no problem. Actually, I mean, once I get my courage up, so for me, I'm gonna write it down. I'm I'm gonna write it down. I'm going to probably read over it and rewrite it. But when I have the conversation, and you know what, I've grown to this point, right? This has come through hardship and trials and stuff, because I haven't always been this way. But now, because of the woman I am today, no, this is what I like. This is what I want, and I'm not receiving this,
Right.
right? This is what I would like, because I like to give you the opportunity early on to make some adjustments, if in fact that's what you want to do.
Right. That's
So,
another thing too, if you can touch on that, or I will touch on it, is not women not trying to change men.
oh,
Because it happens whether we say it, out of our mouth or not.
ooh,
And that's one of the things too. Like, I went into my marriage thinking, hey, I see a ton of red flags, but they're going to change because he loves me and we got married. And that is an absolute lie. And, just going back to what you said, like, I want somebody to do it for them if they feel the adjustments are necessary. I don't want to force anybody to change. You know what I mean? Let them change for themselves, and me not try to change them.
So I'm one of those people that will have that conversation and say, hey, this is how this makes me feel.
Yeah.
I don't like how this is making me feel. If this continues, like I won't be able to be a part of this. Right.
Right.
So that's not telling you anything. You make your own decision about what you want to do. I've given you the information, right? And now you have the notion to say or do some adjustments.
Right.
I think that we as adults try to control. I feel like we as women oftentimes find ourselves, and it's not. I don't think it's intentionally done. I just think that it's a part of. I mean, we're mothers are typically like that. I feel like.
Yeah.
So you'll find yourself wanting to control the situation, but we have to be mindful of that when we're in relationship. Be mindful of the control. Allow people to be themselves. There's no way on earth that I want somebody to stop me from being me. So why would I have the notion to try to stop someone else from being themselves? I feel as though that's a huge component of a healthy relationship is allowing people each other
Right.
to be, themselves.
I agree.
Yeah, so it is something, and I know that we have these conversations, and I know that we always talk about. We might speak from the woman's perspective, and the women may be like, "Well, what about the men?" But honestly, I feel like it's our job as women to hold each other accountable, right? And to cultivate healthy relationships amongst each other in a sisterhood and help each other with the right tools and strategies and tips to be able to have healthy relationships. Like this is what we should do in a sisterhood, right? And for the men
Mhm.
who are even a part of the group, like, you're seeing us women trying to recreate the narrative and have this femininity that we're wanting to possess. Allow us that space and grace to do so.
Right.
We're trying to get it right, just like the men out here trying to get it right. So allow us as women that space. I see a lot of times in the group when we're talking about different conversations, I see the men say, well, you women are too hard, or you women won't allow us to do this, or you women, want to do that. Well, we are a group of women that are trying to change the narrative. So allow us that space and grace to do so.
Yeah, and that's what the conversation in the group is about, gaining an understanding. And like you said, or we talked about earlier, a lot of people just don't know because they didn't see it. Like I had a conversation last week with somebody who was talking about common sense. And he was like, common sense is not common sense. It's what you know, what you were taught. And so what you think is common sense is not the same for somebody else. And that's the same thing with relationships. If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
Even at 30, even at 40, even at 50, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say we're all in a situation of where we're evolving together. Like we're all evolving, or we all should be evolving and growing together. So I'm always, when I post these questions in the group, I'm always looking at other people's perspectives. I'm looking at the feedback because those things allow me to have a wider perspective of, things that I may not think of myself, things that
Right.
work for me that I never considered. Like I'm open to that. And so I feel as though when we're in relationship and we're going through the different relationships that we maneuver through, friendships, parenting relationships, dating relationships, marriage, we all are in a position to where we can continue to grow and to learn.
Absolutely. I agree.
I just think it's healthy. I'm all about healthy relationships, building relationships, healthy relationships, self awareness, self examination. It starts with us. Be accountable with yourself, allow people to hold you accountable, and then that way you're able to, open yourself up to making some changes.
Right.
What are your thoughts about accountability? Do you feel as
Oh,
though
I
that people
think,
should have accountability partners?
listen, I think accountability, when you said self-awareness, I just did a video about that
Mhm.
last week. Accountability and self-awareness is sexy. When you know how to say, you know what, it was my fault.
Yeah.
Maybe I overreacted. Because here's the thing, anytime you're in like a conflict or look at yourself first. Could
Yeah.
I have done something different? Did I say, you know, because when you point the finger, three is pointing back at you.
Yeah.
So you look at you first, examine it, and then go to them and say, hey, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. Did I offend you? Learn how to apologize. Listen, I was one of those ones that I'm stubborn. I'm still stubborn. And guess what? I will go to bed angry and I will ignore you. I don't care if we're in the house. But guess what? That's not healthy.
It's not.
That's not healthy. Like even with my friendships, I got a situation now where my homegirl is like, "Can you please go talk to her?" And I'm like, "Give me a while. I'll get to it. Maybe." Like, but still, I know about myself. Reagan, you're stubborn. Yes, you need to probably go and have a conversation. But I'm mad right now. Okay, but you got to get over yourself. But in a relationship, that is probably one of the sexiest things because that's one of the men's gripes is women don't know how to take accountability for themselves. They say, "Oh, all the men do this and they do that and they do this." But did you take accountability for the man that you chose? Do you keep choosing the wrong man? And now you want to blame all the other men? Well, you're going to have 5 men, none of them worked out, but all men are dogs. It's time to do a self-reflection. Who chose? Because you can't be in a relationship by yourself. No, you can't. So accountability is very important. Self-awareness is very, very, very important.
Tyra says all lessons are to be learned, studied, and taught. We all have and need to begin somewhere. Be accountable, be teachable, and approachable. It's called growth.
That's right.
100% agree. 100% agree. All those are, that's a recipe for a good relationship, right?
Yep, Tyra got the right answer. Cash out to you.
Yeah, so it's all a part of it. Listen, I myself I'm no therapist, I'm no scholar, I'm no psychologist, but I have been living on this earth for quite some time. I have definitely been through some experiences, some changes. I've grown. Listen. I've been on the bad side. I was going to say that as well. One thing I wanted to say is, in the process of, hold on 1 second. In the process of the healing process, when I was going through my divorce, one thing that I found necessary, as many issues or things that I found wrong with my ex-husband, while we're talking about accountability, there was still things in there or that I had done, right?
Mm.
There was still some things that I needed to own. It was still some things in there that I needed to really say out loud to myself. And because I know one of the things that I struggled with was, why did I stay in this relationship and allow this man to put his hands on me? That was tough for me because I'm the person, like, that's not me. And so I had to realize, I had to allow myself to be vulnerable enough to say, like, hey, I'm a human being. Like,
right.
I'm an imperfect person. Like, I did this and it happened, but it's not who I am. Right. It's not who I'm going to be. And you know what? It is what it is. Move forward. Because if you stay in that will sit you in that woe is me. And that's not healthy. So that is something that I wanted to share. It's when you are in a situation, it's a two-person, any relationship is two people. So you always have a part in something. Own what you do, own who you are, be accountable for it, and move forward.
You got that's it. That's the collection plate. That's everything.
Suffer time.
Yep. Yeah, she showed you how to get your relationship and keep it for 50 years. There you go. So with.
We all in the journey. It's called mastering the journey. We all in the journey. Did you have anything you wanted to share before we get out of here?
No, but I thank you for having me on. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, I definitely thank you for allowing yourself to be in this space with me. It's always good talking to you. It's always so positive and uplifting. Really, we haven't talked in a couple of months, I think. But, it's just like when I get to talking with you, it's like we just got done talking yesterday.
Yeah. I like friendships like that, though. I do. And actually, side note, that's one thing that I talk about with my other friends. We don't have to talk every day because we are busy. But when we do talk, it's positive. And I don't like overly clingy people either. So it's just like, girl, what are you doing with your life? Like, If you calling me every day, what are we doing? I'm busy. But go on. So I mean, you have a life, you got kids, you got a man, you got all this other stuff going on. That's great. And I like having friends like this. It's great.
Same, same. Well, I definitely thank everyone that tuned in tonight. For those of you that are catching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. I do want to encourage you to follow me on Facebook at Be Salty. If you want to go to the private group, it's also Be Salty the group. If it's on Instagram, you can follow me at _ Be Salty _. And I definitely want you all to look out. I will have a save the date dropping either tonight or tomorrow, and that is for my upcoming live podcast. Listen, if you have not come, you know what? Before I say that, Reagan, tell them your experience of the live podcast.
Oh my gosh, it was really good. So I had really literally just moved to Houston when you had it, and I went by myself, and I was like, Lord, I don't know nobody, I don't know her, but this, seemed to be cool. It was very positive. It was great conversation. I mean, the people, it wasn't raggedy. Like, you never know what you're going to get. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know this person, but let me just go see. The atmosphere was nice. The conversations was good, were good. It was, like I said, uplifting. It was a very positive experience. And I had a good time. I stayed to the end. The food was good. Like, everything, everything was good. Like, and normally, again, I'm one of those people, you know how Black folks do, come in, try to find something wrong. I'm one of those people. Okay. Just mentally, I ain't gonna say it out loud, but it was good. It was really good.
Well, I thank you for sharing that. So listen, you heard it from Reagan, but if you want to be able to experience it for yourself, go ahead and save the date. July 29th will be the next live podcast. I will have the details coming out soon. Again, it'll be either later this evening or tomorrow. I would encourage you to go ahead and get your tickets now. But hey, I hate to say it, we always get tickets a day before the event start, but
No CP time, please, people.
I encourage you to get your tickets. Save that day for July 29th. It will be in downtown Houston. It's gonna be it's gonna be a wonderful experience. That's the best way I can say it. It's an opportunity for you to come together with like-minded people or people who are not so like-minded, hear different experiences, be able to cultivate healthy relationships, network, ask questions, eat good food, it's drinks, and then you know what? This is my 1 year anniversary, so it's gonna be an actual celebration. Like after the podcast, we're gonna do like a little party and stuff. I'm really excited about it. So for all of you that follow me, I'm expecting to meet you if I don't know you, and for those who I do know, I'm expecting to see you again. Okay. And so as we close out tonight, as always, I encourage you to be salty and season the world with salt. Share something with somebody that is in need. Somebody will cross your path and they will need a word, and you got the message. So I definitely encourage you to do so. And for the rest of you, good night.
Bye.